the host of Green Light with Chris Long podcast, joining us in his usual Monday spot. How good are the Bengals, Chris? How good are they?
Really? I mean, the best bit in sports, man, that they suck. You know, the first quarter of the year or first third of the year, you know, they stink the whole thing. I think this year it helped with Joe Burrow being hurt to like reinforce that, hey, we start slow. I felt like he went in the hole for a month and couldn't move. I mean, you were watching the games, you were like, sit this guy down. But they didn't move him around for like a month. I think he's been healing on the fly. You know, the bye week helps. And I just thought yesterday, looking at it, was a great game plan. I thought they really used San Francisco's aggressiveness against him in the run game, you know, traps, that sort of thing. And then I thought they protected pretty well. And as the down went on, and that's an issue for San Francisco in pass rush and that sort of thing, as the down goes on, if you've got to play a lot of soft zone against Joe Burrow, his eyes are so great. And they play that high-low game with the intermediate stuff. And then, you know, as the down goes on, the linebackers are sitting there, and he one look to Joe Mixon in the flat, and he opens something up, and he's putting it behind your right ear. So he looks healthy. He's driving the ball outside the numbers, you know, which is a thing early in the season. The deep outs, the big throws. I don't know if he could push off and make those throws. So I think Cincy looks like Cincy, and the joke's on us every year now.
And then the AFC is as wide open as it comes right now. You got four teams at 6-2. No one's running away with it. The Bengals are sitting there at 4-3. The AFC North is kind of a toss-up outside of Baltimore, it appears right now, in terms of consistency, until the Bengals show up like they did yesterday, right? I mean, that's
yeah.
The Bills are a bit of a shrug emoji still at 5-3. It's a wide open conference, or it's still the Chiefs? What do you got for me?
It is wide open. It's probably been wide open all year. I mean, if you know, last week we did the whole, like, I can't believe we counted Kansas City out. Look what they did to the Chargers. I can't believe anybody would ever pick the Chargers in that division, hand up at different points over Staley's tenure. But I mean, like, week to week, a lot can change. Now, I don't panic over Kansas City. They left about 20 points on the field in a division game that is sometimes going to be tough, and you're missing Nick Bolton, and I thought that showed up in the run game, you know, whether it's a muff punt or a drop in the end zone by Sky Moore or multiple turnovers in the plus territory. It's interesting when you look at the top of the AFC, it really comes down to home field advantage for me when it's this close. And, you know, Kansas City has to be thinking about that. They're going to have to go to Germany, I think, this week, and play Miami.
Sir. I'm calling the game on Sunday, brother. I'll be in the booth.
By the way, I said this while you were gone. I'm gonna give you your flowers while you're here. I think you're as good as anybody in the booth. And it's like you just kind of waltz in and do it every once in a while.
Yeah.
You know, you did a great job. I like watching those games in the mornings on Sunday, especially with you in there. So
appreciate it.
Yeah, man. And I think that's going to be a great game. A team that flies under the radar and continues to fly under the radar, because I think they win ugly sometimes, is the Jacksonville Jaguars. And if you look at the Jags stretch the rest of the season, they have maybe one of the easiest schedules out of these contending teams. I think, you know, I think they play like 3 or 4 teams tops, like maybe 3 teams with
we'll pop that
winning
up
record.
We'll pop that up on the screen for you, because their next one is against San Francisco. Both teams coming on a bye, coming off of a bye. They're going on to one now, and then they come off and play one another. And you know Jacksonville is going to want to nail the Niners' pelt on that Duval wall, man. Like, that's the way that they're playing really well right now.
They're playing really well. And the thing I was so impressed about with Jacksonville yesterday is winning that game the way they did. Now, some people look at it and they're like, they turned the ball over 3 times in plus territory, gold zone, red zone, like bad plays in that area. And Pittsburgh deserves credit, but you saw Kansas City. They couldn't overcome that at Denver yesterday. Right. And like, they're the class of the AFC and all that. I think that Jacksonville, you got to be very afraid of this team. To go to Pittsburgh, where Mike Tomlin's home dog record speaks for itself, fell victim to that yesterday. Neither here nor there. Fell victim to a lot of stuff, including the Bears plus 10 last night. Like, what the hell are we doing? But like, you know, to go there and turn the ball over a bunch and not play perfect, and to still kind of have complete control of that game. Whenever Pittsburgh got within striking distance, they made a big play to pull away. I think it was so impressive. And I think, you know, and Trayvon Walker came on yesterday and had a sack and that sort of thing. But I still think, and this isn't to say anything about their pass rush unit other than more the merrier. Like, Doug Peterson knows that from his tenure with the Eagles. We were 7 deep. They really don't have a lot of great rushers. To add one more before the deadline to me would be a no-brainer.
Chris Long, two-time Super Bowl champion, right here on the Rich Eisen Show, Green Light with Chris Long, podcast host. All right, we had such a good time, even though the teams that are subject matters aren't having such a good time. Last week in a new segment within your segment called Levels of Concern with Chris Long.
Yeah.
We even have like a graphic.
All right, move on. Nothing to see here. Please, it's first.
There you go. Little Frank
It's Chris Long's Level of Concern.
All right, a round of applause here. What do you think of the graphic? Smitch did a great job.
That graphic is just...
It's fantastic, right?
It's great.
Okay,
it's
good.
great.
It's called
That's
production
good.
value, Christopher. All right, so let's get the first one up. The San Francisco 49ers, your level of concern for San Francisco is what?
It's relatively high. I mean, I'm not freaking out, but like we talked about this with Brock Purdy a month ago, people wanted to burn me at the stake because I was like pushing back on him being a top 10 quarterback. Like, things take a while to shake out at quarterback in this league, and like the context around quarterbacks matters and that sort of thing. I think they miss Trent big time. Like a lot of what they do starts with, getting on edges in the run game, hard zone. He's dominant. And so many times you just think about the protection with a guy like that. And sometimes you don't think about a tackle being down as much, but he is truly a game changer for them. Missing him, having to go without Debo, and then the late game mistakes by him. But honestly, like, this is a team that I look at and I say they're used to playing complementary football on both sides of the ball, where the other side's also playing great, and neither side is playing great right now. And on defense, somebody else besides Nick Bosa has to win rushes. I know the guy's getting paid $1 billion, and you look at the sack totals and that sort of thing. Guy had 9 pressures in the first half yesterday. Somebody else has to win, and I think the fractions of time are a little bit off in coverage. I don't know if it's like the minutia of what Wilkes is doing that Ryans wasn't doing, or vice versa, but the time fractions are off for that pass rush group, and you can see it.
Let's move to the Chiefs. Your level of concern for the Kansas City Chiefs is what, Chris?
Not very. I mean, you got not very. I'm not very concerned about them. They have flaws, but if you look at the Niners, we just talked about the Niners. I mentioned 5 things, like on both sides of the ball. Okay, like the defense will be fine when they get Nick Bolton back. I thought they got, I don't want to say bullied up front yesterday a little bit, but like that was that group. Like that group was built to win that game yesterday. I mean, they pounded the rock. Sean Payton was giddy. He sounded like Bill Parcells in the press conference afterwards. Like that was that kind of game. And like I said, the Chiefs left a lot of points on the board. I trust that quarterback. I trust that coach. I'm not worried about him.
What about getting a weapon in the next 24 hours, Brett Veach? What about, I know they already got Hardman from the Jets, but
I dare you, Veach. I don't think he's going to do it. I just don't think he's going to do it. But like, you look back, and I don't like doing this with draft picks because it's unfair to Sky Moore or whatever, but George Pickens comes off the board, I think, right after. And sometimes I don't think Matt Canada knows he has George Pickens, but like things like that. They've missed in a couple spots when they could have drafted good wide receivers. Now you're talking about the difference between another ring and not having another ring. And I think it might come down to, in that passing game, you can survive being dink and dunk, but there will be games like this. And in the playoffs, one of those can sink you. So I like adding another piece, but I'm just playing with Monopoly money here.
Chris Long here. Level of concern with Chris Long right now from the Green Light with Chris Long podcast host. You just took a slight swipe at Matt Canada, the offensive coordinator of the Steelers.
He wasn't bad yesterday.
Well, I mean, the Steelers' offense didn't look good again, or they looked like they were struggling to get first downs again. Kenny Pickett gets knocked out with a rib injury that, by the way, I should say, moments ago, as we were starting our segment, Mike Tomlin, meeting with the media, spoke about Kenny Pickett's availability. It's a short game Thursday night with the Titans coming in. And as you know, Jeffrey Simmons and that defense there are no wallflowers. This is what Mike Tomlin had to say.
I think the door is definitively ajar for Kenny. Probably a game time type decision based on the information that I'm holding here today, with no structural damage and so forth to his ribs. And so we see how we'll go through the week. His ability to throw, his level of comfort, his ability of effectiveness, et cetera. and let that be our guide in terms of determining his availability.
What do you think for me about a level of concern here, Chris?
First off, I love like Mike Tomlin. I could listen to his press conferences all day. I just love him.
Yeah, me
but
too.
also, I am concerned about the Steelers, but I never thought they had like this tremendously high ceiling. Like they're going to have to scrap things out. They've had some good luck in different spots, but if Pickett's healthy, I like the spot for them Thursday night. I mean, like everybody's going to be buying the Titans high off Will Levis. It's awesome performance and everything. If you watch that game yesterday, like it's easy to say, hey, Matt Canada, Matt Canada, Matt Canada. And I've done it this year, but just execute, like he schemed up Deontay Johnson open in plus territory. The first damn play of the game, catch the ball, third down, don't slip in the end zone, pick it, put it on Deontay, get in the right cleats. Like there are points off the board that they're leaving out there. And, I could get nitpicky and say, I want to see more Pickens. I want to see more Warren, stuff like that. But I thought yesterday the offensive play calling wasn't the problem, on some level that we're used to Matt Canada and complaining about Matt Canada. It's just too easy to do it when they didn't execute. I thought yesterday was execution, and the defense gave them so many opportunities. They had some nice drives. They strung together some long drives, but Pickett hurt and a lot of drops, a lot of mistakes.
So what's your concern? What would we say your level of concern for the Steelers is?
Well, they're not like, I don't think about them like a team that's going to win the Super Bowl. So it's hard for me to get concerned about a team that's not going to win it. Like, no disrespect, they could go on a run and everything, but if we're being honest, like you didn't expect the Steelers to be here right now. So concerned? Yeah, I'm a little concerned, but only if Pickett's hurt for a while.
Let's talk about the Browns then. Again, P.J. Walker starting again. He had about 2.5, 3 really good quarters, and then the Seahawks defense started doing its thing. Seattle moves on. The Browns are now 4-3. They were in the 7th spot through 8 weeks in the AFC. What's your level of concern for Cleveland, Chris?
Curious. It's a curiosity. I'm not concerned. Again, like it's the wrong C word. Concerned. Well, I would have to think they're going somewhere. And it's not to say that I don't think the defense is scary and all that stuff. Although I'd like to know who they are, because like week to week, half to half, it changes. And sometimes they'll bleed a lot of yards and points. If you want to be talked about like one of those defenses, right? And we get out over our skis a little bit early in the season. We were throwing the Ravens around from like 2000. That's the kind of statistical pace they're on. But then Minshew puts up 38 points. Seattle gets a cushion at home. Like if you want to be held to that standard, we got to hold you to that standard. And I'd like to see the defense be a little bit more consistent. I don't think Deshaun's walking back through that door and looking like Houston Deshaun. To me, that's just kind of things have changed now. So they're going to have to win championships on defense, and I'd like to see them be more consistent.
All right, then the last one for you, the Washington Commanders, who got Sam Howell doing some terrific things against an Eagles defense that he just had his way against. I mean, they got the most sacked quarterback in the league, didn't get touched until Hassan Reddick sacked him finally at the end. And then what do you think about the Commanders' chance to make a playoff run here? With your level of concern at the midway point for them? So
actually, I like the Commanders. I mean, obviously, it's a division rivalry with the Eagles, and over the last 3 games, they've gotten the better of them. Offensively, whether it was Heineke beating them in prime time or Howell lately. But here's what's interesting, and I think Bieniemy's doing a great job. Also, who was the guy there in Kansas City? The other guy that tore him up through the air, the other team that tore him up through the air in the Super Bowl. The only couple teams to do that really since last year have been Bieniemy teams. Mm-hmm. And so like maybe he has something on these guys, but more than anything, it's your 8th combination on defense in the backfield. And this was the biggest thing for me. They came in this game and they said, last game we took a lot of chances. Howell's been sacked a lot. We scored a lot of points on the Eagles, but he took 3 seconds to throw the ball in that game. And so like the pass rush not getting home in some situations, you could say, hey, they got to get home. This game, 2-4 is how quick he got the ball out. Go watch the first quarter. Every first down, wildly productive. They were facing like 2nd and 1, 2nd and 1, 2nd and 5, a first down, a touchdown. First down, quick game, killed these guys. And, it doesn't give the pass rush a chance to get home. So, for them, it's about hanging in there, adding the pieces in the secondary. I don't think Howie's done. You know, like we know whether it's a running back in the red zone, they could use one, or you know, it's a nickel, you know, that can play the slot, because Byard, you know, he's in the picture, but can you guard the slot? I think Howie's going to make another move. I'm not concerned about the Commanders, because I actually think they're better than people give them credit for. And the Eagles, just to throw this in there, I'm not concerned about them either.
So last one for you here, Chris Long, before I let you go to your show. Who's the MVP through 8 weeks of this season? This seems to be a wide open race. No one's running away with anything now. And, you know, Mahomes finally got on the road in division. He's not going to be perfect going to the Hall of Fame one day in division.
Yeah.
3 picks yesterday. What do you got for me? Who's the MVP of the NFL at the so-called midway point? Do you have for me?
Man, if you do this thing like strictly, if you're like, who's the most valuable player to that team, considering what he has around him, and the way that team wins, is Patrick Mahomes. And I know it's boring, but like, you know, I know we don't do it that way. If it's just stats and the types of things that an offense has been able to do, I think Tua's got to be in that conversation, right? Even though I don't believe that, the way we do this award is like, you know, who had the biggest impact net offensively at quarterback, racking up numbers. I think Tua's got to be in that conversation. But if I'm being honest, if you're going to quarterback, it's got to be Mahomes in my opinion. I haven't even looked at the stats. Don't need to. He's throwing the ball to Rashee Rice, and you know they make a move for, you know, they got MVS and Hardman. They're muffing punts. They're dropping balls. Like, he still gives you a chance every week. If you went non-quarterback, it's one of A.J. Brown and Tyreek Hill. I mean, those guys, in all honesty, especially Tyreek down in Miami, I feel like just completely changed everything when it comes to game planning for that offense.
First guy since 1961 to get over 1,000 yards through his team's first 8 games. That's MVP worthy for sure. Who's on your show, Chris? What do you got?
Who is on my show? Kyle Long today. I've
heard of him.
My little big brother.
Okay.
And then later this week, I don't know, guys, because last week we said it didn't fall through, so I don't want to jinx anything. We got a couple players lined up.
Okay, very good. Speaking of all in the family, thanks to some of your assistance. Your dear old dad is the guest on What the Football with Susie Schuster and Amy Trask on Tuesday. He's in. Howie Long is in.
He really lets it loose on the podcast.
Okay.
So that should be fun. He's a lot more, you know, he's a lot more conservative on NFL Fox Sunday.
Okay.
I think you're going to get some interesting answers.
He's a stray broken arrow? Is that what you're saying?
Stray broken arrow.
Okay,
yeah,
very good.
Just like the movie. Things out in the desert. John Travolta's got to go find it.
You're the man, Chris. You be well. Take care. We'll
All right,
chat
Rich,
again.
see y'all.
You got it. That is Chris Long, everybody, right here on the program. That was great. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.